Hi guys, it's Claire Nakti. Today I'm going to be revealing the top 5 astrological placements that excel in the art of glamour, attraction, and beauty cultivation. To do this, I've collected the birth charts of 265 established cosmetologists, those in what they call pink-collar professions, specifically individuals engaged in the beauty creative professions, hairstyling, and makeup artistry. After charting these 265 beauticians, 5 key astrological placements arose above the statistical upper bounds, meaning they occurred at a frequency high enough to be considered abnormal and notable. I've ranked these factors by significance and will reveal and explore them as I go. Okay, so to jump right into it, first, the most prominent individual factor to emerge from the entire dataset was a specific portion of Cancer, Ashlesha nakshatra, which spans from 1640 to 30 degrees. Both Cancer ascendant overall and Ashlesha ascendant in particular stood out clearly in the results, but Ashlesha rose even more sharply, appearing at nearly 4 times the expected rate in this group. Even beyond the ascendant, however, Ashlesha continued to dominate. In fact, Ashlesha nakshatra actually ranked twice in the top factors. The number 4 indicator for beauticians was Sun, the soul in Ashlesha.
I would be a makeup artist if I wasn't Kylie Jenner.
You would? For real?
For real. I would really love it.
While I'll be focusing on Ashlesha for the first portion of this video, what I'm describing applies to anyone interested in the deeper mechanics of magnetism and attraction. As you'll see, Ashleshas are very passionate about the arts of seduction, mystique, and glamour, which is why they emerge as natural teachers and icons on these subjects. They demonstrate how cultivating magnetism and seductive allure becomes a conscious outlet for receptive desire, a way of giving it shape, direction, and influence. So the benefit of tuning into Ashlesha's energies isn't at all limited to those with this placement. This video is relevant for anyone, man or woman, who resonates with these subjects and who wishes to understand more deeply the esoteric, spiritual significance of glamour and seduction. Ashlesha nakshatra is symbolized by the coiled serpent at the base of the spine, representing potent Kundalini Shakti in its latent, earthbound condition. Carl Jung described the serpent, such as when it arises in dreams, as often representing the introverting libido, the gathering of life force away from outward engagement into focused refinement of being. Where outwardly directed libido seeks to conquer and project, Ashlesha's mode is to coil, to pull, to bind, to draw the world into itself without dispersing its core energy. Jung also mythologically parallels the serpent, such as the serpent in paradise, to the seductive principle in women. And Ashlesha nakshatra is presided over by the Nagas, watery serpent spirits, which are strongly associated with seduction as well in folklore. I quote, "The Nagas rule the creative life force. They have the power of transmutation, to transform something ugly and unformed into something beautiful."
So you do a lot of really big transformation moments on clients.
You know what? I fell in love with her. I remember when I was a kid, I really enjoyed the whole idea of making someone look good. And it was amazing the transformation you can give someone and the power that kind of gives them.
You know, I just got really into makeup. I just kind of was fascinated with the idea that I could literally transform into somebody else with one small technique.
Who did your makeup?
I do.
All the time?
Yeah, there's one person I let do my makeup sometimes.
Or to transform poison into nectar, ignorance into knowledge, or bondage into liberation. So first, in terms of Cancer's strength for this industry, through my research it's proving to really be a Rashi concerned with physical beauty in general. Cancer's Lord Moon, like the way it pulls the tides, is the feminine planet supreme, the queen, associated with magnetism. Moon rules the feminine Ida Nadi channel of the body, the lunar current, which represents the internalized and inward drawing aspects of a person, which translates to feminine allure. Punarvasu bridges into Cancer and is the redemptive work, the organizing, the restoration of truth, the journey from darkness to light that ends in a transformation into beauty. Pusha is the model nakshatra tied to symmetry, regulated features, and the idea of geometric form being sacred. Ashlesha is then ruled by the Rajasic planet Mercury, where one takes the raw magnetic charge of the moon, refining it with skill, craftiness, and precision, mastering these lunar magnetic arts.
Before,
After. Your makeup looks are iconic. Euphoria completely changed the game.
Folk beliefs from around the world came to suggest that snakes have hypnotic powers due to how they noticed prey animals freeze in their presence, just as this nakshatra's basis below is the trembling and agitation from the presence of the snake. Quoting Light on Life, in India, snakes are seen as wily, creepy creatures which hypnotize their prey with their movements in their eyes.
This will really pump up the drama and give you that extra sexy look.
Before entwining themselves around their victims.
This is a little something I like to call seductive, get lost in your eyes eyeliner.
Do I have any tips for mastering the perfect wing? This is probably my favourite question because it's my favourite look to do in makeup.
I would always do my own wing because that's kind of like my signature thing.
Yeah, what are you gonna wow them with? Your eyeliner skills? Fuck you and your stupid sad face.
I also quote, the snake has the power to paralyze with the fixity of its magnetic eyes, the sudden flashes or the slow undulating of its body. When a bird is hypnotized by a snake, the bird flutters down to fight the snake and then becomes attracted and held by the snake.
No, Khaleesi. You must look in his eyes always. It is said that Erigenia of Lys could finish a man with nothing but her eyes.
Finish a man? Oh.
So like these serpentine hunting methods, Ashley's mode is not to chase or pursue, but rather to remain immensely controlled and still and draw things towards it. The introverting libido coils inward, tightening, constricting, and concentrating the life force, and this energetic tension pulls in a catalytic and dynamic force, so it magnetizes movement towards it without scattering its energy, acting only with deliberate, coiled precision. This is why Ashlesha is such a potent nakshatra for creating allure. Its inward coiling primes, smooths, refines, and intensifies its own presence, charging its own stillness with such gravitational density that it causes the world to bend towards it.
Your greatest power in seduction is your ability to turn away, to make others come after you.
A hot person does not chase, they attract.
Now this brings me to Ashlesha's connection to the sad girl archetype. Both Marie Antoinette and Priscilla are films starring Ashlesha natives, commonly referred to as iconic sad girl characters. Each woman is placed in a life of luxury but finds herself erotically, intellectually, and emotionally unstimulated by her relationships and surroundings, and she develops feelings of sadness, stagnation, ennui, and unfulfilled yearning. In response, both films follow her as she spirals inward more tightly, immersing herself deeply into intricate, hyper-feminine beauty rituals as her outlet for control, safety, or masking. For the sad girl, cultivating beauty and glamour is something of a survival instinct, an Ashlesha mode of tightening energy around the self when external power is denied, regaining a sense of personal control when the outside world feels unchangeable. In my previous video on this nakshatra, I explored Ashlesha's connection to receptive-oriented erotic hunger and fantasies, urges to allure something firm and then coil around it, just as this nakshatra means the embrace and is called the entwiner. I touched on the film Belle du Jour, where Ashlesha Moon Catherine Deneuve plays a bored, depressed housewife who, in response to her emotional stagnation, develops and represses intense submissive erotic fantasies.
À quoi penses-tu, Séverine?
Je pensais à toi, à nous deux. Nous nous promenions ensemble dans un landau.
Toujours le landau?
Over the course of the film, through this libidinal energy wound tight beneath the surface, she slowly draws in a destructive force that ruptures the tension and stagnancy of her world in an inner and outer sense. So to different extremes, when those with Ashlesha-like energy feel trapped in inertia, powerless, or emotionally unstimulated, they often don't rebel outwardly or force outer change in a way that others might. They impulsively concentrate their life force on themselves, waiting and winding and magnifying the potency of their own pool, consciously or unconsciously, in order to summon catalytic forces, whether erotic, emotional, or even destructive, that can unwind the coiled, constricted state. This spiraling inner tension creates what one critic, remarking on these two parallel films and their similarity as well to the aesthetic of Ashlesha Moon Lana Del Rey, an intoxicatingly inert heroine who confers on sadness a kind of hypnotic allure.
Sadness of any sort is also seductive, particularly if it seems deep-rooted, even spiritual, rather than needy or pathetic. It makes people come to you.
Ashlesha builds these deep receptive cravings for an alchemical reason that I'll explore soon, but because of this inward flowing, coiled nature, it can't chase what it craves, and that's the sad girl's inertia.
See a man, woman.
No.
A woman with needs who needs to be desired.
So the desire turns inward, gathering weight, pressure, and psychic charge. Makeup and beauty rituals become the way that Ashleisha takes action.
We are here with the makeup marvel. It is Crystal Envy.
Hi, Kyron. How are we feeling?
You look expensive.
While staying true to its receptive design.
I've been loving beauty long before YouTube, the beauty guru era started. But I really started having an appreciation for makeup, I would say as early as like 12, 13. Like I would like see pictures of my mom.
I've always been like really into makeup. I think I just used to watch my mom a lot maybe, and I used to like steal all her makeup.
I would watch my mom get ready for work, getting to see her put makeup on in the morning. It was always just such a fun thing to see her do, and I just loved it since I was like 2 years old.
So my mom, I grew up watching her do makeup. I was like 12 years old, and she did the craziest, most beautiful like editorial look on me, and I loved it. I didn't want to take it off.
Glamour is an active, creative expression of receptive desire, a spiritual technology for coiled inward energy to exert agency, control, protection, and amplified influence without direct outward force.
I do Tiffany's makeup all the time, like every time I'm bored or I'm sad or anything. I just call her to do her makeup.
Beauty rituals feel particularly empowering to Ashleisha's serpentine energy because it's one truly aligned action available to a nakshatra that thrives on pulling in and binding, not pushing out.
You know, I've always loved makeup. Even when I was working in other careers, I used to like go leave work and like go do my friend's makeup for free. Like I would just do anything, drop anything to do anybody's makeup for free.
Makeup has just been a part of my DNA. I've loved it for as long as I can remember. Kendall was riding horses and I was like practicing my makeup at home.
For Ashleisha, beautification resonates as a profession, as it's not frivolous vanity as some may think, but invocation, refining the vessel and summoning power and energy toward the self.
I just knew in my soul that this was what I was supposed to do.
So as the symbol of the introverting libido then, Ashleisha's desire as inward flowing libidinous energy means it excels at and fixates on the art of magnetism.
There's always something really beautiful about a woman that I love to bring out. The magnitude of what the transformation can happen for a woman or a man regarding to their hair and beauty is really magnificent.
I love women so much. Each of them inspires me. And it's true, and when I look at them, I look the way they walk, the way they sit, if they're comfortable, what do they want to hide? And I always think, what can I do to make her look her best?
I think I used to always feel inspired by, wanting to make my mum look glamorous. When I was in the salon and I saw these women walking one way and then walk out very differently, and they almost had a bit of a leap to their walk, and probably felt like everyone was looking at them. They probably weren't, but they felt it, and that was what was so important. And that was the thing for me. I was like, I want to be able to do that universally to everyone.
In the ancient text Vishnu Smriti, specific attainments are said to be gained based on which nakshatra you perform ancestral offerings under. It's stated that making offerings during Ashleisha nakshatra grants the blessing of beauty. Rituals and offerings here with a combination of lunar and mercurial energies are empowered through the receptive charge, the erotic hunger of this nakshatra, to channel into crafting magnetic beauty, just as in many magical systems around the world, items to be used in attraction magic were to be bathed in moonlight.
It's a wonderful moon out tonight.
I'm going to be coming out with a brand this year, and its name is Lunar Beauty, which is like so me.
So beauty rituals act as expressions of this potent, self-contained erotic energy.
Charisma plays on repressed sexuality, creates an erotic charge.
Ashleisha winds tighter, condensing and refining its own force rather than scattering outwardly, and through this ritualized containment of libido, becomes a psycho-magnetic vessel, attracting things toward it powerfully. For example, a glam team surrounding a celebrity is often full of people with Ashleisha energies.
The artful use of cosmetics has been refined to such an extent by Wade Bandy that he is considered the foremost expert in the country, and his clients read like a list of who's who.
Through the years, it was almost like if you want to change your look, you want to create a different image, go see Rita. It's a lot of fun for me to create looks that are that iconic for women throughout the years.
When I say, oh, I want to fix that girl, and I eventually do end up fixing her, you know,
Right.
like
I end up working with that person.
When you say fixing, why? What do you see?
Revamp their look.
Their presence acts as a containing, coiling force around the public persona, one that polishes, smooths, refines, and cools the image while amplifying its charge.
She met her makeup artist, and this would be her makeup artist for the whole of her career, Alan Snyder, known as Whitey. They had an incredibly close relationship, to the point where Marilyn even said, if I die before you, you have to do my makeup for my funeral, and it's something he did. From her first screen test to when he sort of launched her as the icon she is in 1953 for Niagara, went through lots of twists and turns, but once they'd found the look, the Marilyn look, it stayed with her for the rest of the 50s and through all of her big films.
The glam team binds the celebrity into a highly stylized form.
Hey guys, celebrity makeup artist Keita Moore here. You guys know me as Kill Pretty.
As Ashlesha's mode of intelligence excels in tightening and concentrating energy, pulling it into a kind of tension that draws power inwards.
What I discovered is that women, there's a common thread through women. They want to feel desired, they want to be sexy, and they want people to adorn them. So if you guys listening,
why don't people get
you know
that?
what I mean?
Ashlesha's traditional power, the Shakti, to inflict with poison, evokes a deep symbolic overlap between venom and allure. Venom alters signals in the body, whether by numbing, paralyzing, or overstimulating the nerves. Many common words for feminine beauty draw directly from the language of intoxication and trance, such as intoxicating, captivating, mesmerizing, and stunning. Each points to beauty as a force that doesn't just attract, it arrests, disorients, or overwhelms the senses into submission, overriding perceivers' control to some level.
Finish your story, dear.
Today I decided to make a video on how to become mesmerizing. I know a lot of people that are physically beautiful, but they are not attractive, they are not mesmerizing to anyone.
So like a toxin spreading quietly, glamour works beneath awareness, amplifying beauty's effects and bending the perceiver's responses without force. It works directly on the senses, magnifying attraction cues the human brain is already primed to notice. Flushed cheeks mimic the blood flow of arousal.
And I'm not gonna lie, I put on a lot of blush. I really do.
Fuller lips suggest vitality and fertility, magnified eyes suggest youth, and so on. The result is a kind of sensory sleight of hand.
Once we lip line it, this area will look more plumped, which is the illusion I want to create. But what you want to do is you need to create an illusion of basically a fake mouth. Last thing I'm going to do, and this will really kind of add the illusion of super plumpness.
Makeup is an illusion, y'all, and sometimes the things that you don't really see be the stuff that pops the most.
Perception becomes skewed and responses to the glamorous one are heightened. Glamour then actively reshapes how others process what they see in the glamorous one's favor, pulling perceivers further into Ashlesha's field. In terms of its association with poison, it's also an interesting note that just as this nakshatra is associated with pharmaceuticals and medicines and the way that poisons can be used aggressively or productively, cosmetics have a long history of often having been made with poisons like lead, mercury, and arsenic. So beauticians, naturally resonating with this nakshatra, would have been in the past utilizing and actually applying poisons to their clients quite actively.
And as a child, the smell of the ammonia and the transformation of this girl was very fascinating.
The word pharmacy is derived from the Greek word pharmakia, originally referring to the use of drugs, potions, or spells for healing or harm. And this is a Tikshna nakshatra, meaning sharp, traditionally said to be good for detail-oriented harsh things like surgery, as well as said to be best for applying incantations and performing magic. The field of cosmetology also involves important attention to detail.
People were like, where do you get your lashes? And I was like, I'm making them. I'm literally cutting, shaving, gluing on top of each other. I'm making them.
An understanding of how to adorn oneself powerfully in a way that people often call sorcery, embracing, playing with, and celebrating illusion.
No. Hold
on, let me just put a little more highlighter.
No.
Just a little
It's not going anywhere.
This is where you go. I just want you to be like real shiny.
It's not too much, is it?
Like, I want glam. I want lashes. I want a sculpted brow. I want 3 layers of highlighted concealer. I want blush into my lower lash line. Like,
but what
I'm
is
a
the
glam
truth?
girl.
In the same way, you can see how these energies are linked in that, I quote, glamour originally referred to a magical spell cast by witches and slowly came to describe a non-magical item used to create a more attractive appearance.
While meticulous and product heavy, Marilyn's rigorous beauty regime certainly paid off. Photographer Milton H. Green remarked, "You don't just wake up in the morning and wash your face and comb your hair and go out looking like Marilyn Monroe. She knew every trick in the book."
Of course, Ashlesia's magnetic serpent energy is also defensive. The celebrity's glam team, for example, builds a protective and symbolic layer, not just physically but psychically around the person.
So every time I see my work on a red carpet, or if I see a campaign, you're creating like a character.
It took her, I believe, from the weird girl with the blood around her neck to the Angelina we know today. So all of that coif, all of the red carpet events, the leather dress, the coat that was the tiger, all of that was me. So
wow, great
I think
job.
It changed everything.
A second skin that acts as a filter between their vulnerable core and public gaze.
I'm going to conjure Marilyn within the hour. I promise. Come here.
I know everybody is like natural, live in your skin. I don't know. My hot take is, why should I? Because there's how many billion people on the internet? Half the time, people don't even show up as themselves. Why do I gotta show my rawest, unfiltered self?
Like the skin of the snake, I quote, glamorous things are neither opaque, hiding all, nor transparent, showing everything, but translucent, favorably showing things. Embodying this, I quote the take on Alexa Demi's glamorous character Maddie in Euphoria. Maddie appears both very noticeable and enigmatic at the same time, because of the total control she exercises over her image. In nature, there's an overlap with poisonous creatures and how they simultaneously engage in self-defense and allurement. Many are vividly colored, a defense called post-Semitism. The bright colors function to seize attention instantly, but its purpose is actually to warn predators of their toxicity. I quote, the brighter and more conspicuous the organism, the more toxic it usually is. As I've explored through Ashlesia's theme of the taming power of the small, creatures without brute strength survive and thrive through more refined strategies that attack the nerves and perception of their target, such as triggering instinctive responses.
I don't know what you do, honey, unless you use Novocaine in your lipstick.
Or signaling danger before the threat can even come close, rather than attempting to match them in physical strength or size. A similar dynamic plays out in human glamour and helps one understand the types of people who are attracted to cultivating it for themselves.
Another thing I'm gonna say is to be more confident is take care of your physical appearance. If you guys saw my self-care routine and how much I put effort into my looks, you guys would be like, whoa.
Glamour captures attention and draws people in mentally, but an important idea is how it also creates distance. While it magnetizes attention, it simultaneously raises the threshold for engagement.
Hey Jennifer, you look really pretty.
What up, Craig? He thinks he's cute enough for me.
People are drawn in, but fewer feel bold enough to step closer. The more polished, composed, and striking someone appears, the more hesitant others may be to approach. The glamorous one's inner focus, this ritualized self-curation, projects self-worth, value, and confidence, traits Ashlesia deliberately builds into their self-presentation.
Maddie's highly aware of the constructed nature of confidence. She essentially invented herself as a queen bee by making a conscious choice to develop confidence.
So I used to do her hair. I'd say, okay, look in the mirror. When she stood up and looked in the mirror, there was this different reactions. Her shoulders would go back, she stood a little taller, and she sort of just didn't necessarily know that person she was looking at. And I remember thinking, wow, this is amazing. Like, people looking good is great, but feeling good is really magic. And when those two are combined, I felt like, wow, this is like a superpower.
It was interesting because I interviewed her the night before, and then I saw her 12 hours later after you'd gotten your hands on her, and it was night and day. Not just in terms of appearance, but in her confidence as well.
For Ashlesia, confidence comes from beauty, but projecting confidence is also an intentional part of the overall glamour. Cancer's symbol is the crab, a creature with a hard exterior that protects its inner softness. Some crabs have aposematic traits, protecting themselves through bright colors. So too with Ashlesha's fixation on surfaces. Layers of glamour and displays of bravado and confidence, which function as glamour's paradox, attraction that doubles as defense. So glamour becomes a kind of social armor and a passive form of defense meant to be seen, admired, and desired, but not easily understood, touched, or approached.
That's why you have to stay detached and keep them chasing. Stay the prize, stay self-obsessed. And that's when they want you, because they can't figure you out. You're a mystery to them.
The more a person seems absorbed in refining themselves, the more others instinctively assume they must be worth something.
Self-esteem is critical in seduction. Your attitude towards yourself is read by the other person in subtle and unconscious ways. Low self-esteem repels. Confidence and self-sufficiency attract. The less you seem to need other people, the more likely others will be drawn to you.
A hot person knows that they are whole by themselves and that they are abundant beings in every aspect. They will always attract money, they will always attract love, they will always attract attention, adoration, it doesn't matter. Because that is what they give to themselves.
Their attention isn't scattered or easily leaked, it's tightly reserved, and that containment signals strength. To approach might mean exposure to something sharp, something energetically overpowering, something that could render you inadequate by comparison.
I won't let myself fall in love with a man who won't trust me no matter what I might do.
No matter what you... Lorelei, that's being unreasonable.
Well, goodbye then.
Even when glamour isn't used overtly to increase biological beauty cues and is instead used in more elaborate ways, still the Ashlesha is using it to signal their confidence and boldness.
I love her lipstick. So bold.
Either way, there's a kind of natural filtration built into human glamour, just as in nature.
I want to bear your children.
While it attracts and intrigues, it also shields and veils and averts. Weak energy often gets stunned, dazzled, intimidated, or self-conscious, and backs away or submits.
I'm not afraid to be sexy. I think a woman who's intelligent and also knows how to weaponize her beauty, there's nothing on Jennifer's body. There's nothing more dangerous than that. There's nothing more powerful than that.
This is the same mingling of ideas behind Ashlesha's prominence as cheerleaders and intuitive film casting. Cheerleading is a form of feminine showboating, emphasizing glamour and curated confidence through hypnotic chants and movement.
I'm bitchin', great hair. The boys all love to stare. I'm wanted, I'm hot, I'm everything you're not.
With makeup worn like war paint and controlled dance meant to stir both attraction and intimidation in the perceivers. Here the feminine forces exert that kind of psychic dominance meant to psych up and boost confidence in their own side while psyching out the opponent. These types of taming power of the small strategies are outlined in the books of Robert Greene, who can have Ashlesha Moon, and especially his book The Art of Seduction, which I've been quoting throughout the video.
A highly feminine and sexual presence, even to the point of caricature, will quickly differentiate you, since most women lack the confidence to project such an image.
In it, he famously dissects in obsessive detail how to influence others solely through psychology, glamour, suggestion, and aura.
There is a book written by Robert Greene. I used the same techniques, and I didn't even know I was using them.
It's essentially a handbook of serpent logic, a guide to that kind of subtle, indirect warfare that bends minds and pulls power and energy towards the self in ways that brute force never can. Similarly, Dale Carnegie, the author of the hugely popular How to Win Friends and Influence People, can have Ashlesha Moon. Both writers, through arguably darker versus lighter tactics, strategize on how to win the favor of people through subtle, indirect shifts in behavior that seduce those around them into falling more under their will.
The thing about Marilyn Monroe was what we see on the screen was completely made up. It was all this makeup, it was everything. It was a creation. She created this feminine icon of seduction that was totally a work of art. Seduction is a high form of power because you make people feel pleasure. You make them feel excited or interested in you, and then their resistance to your ideas slowly lowers. If you yell at them, they resent it, and for good reason. But if you're subtler, if you're more seductive in your approach, if you're more indirect, people will do what you want or go in your direction without ever even realizing it.
Robert Greene's work is cited as the biggest influence on the seduction coach YouTuber The Wizard Liz, who can have Ashlesha Moon, and she's often compared to Shara7, an Ashlesha Moon native as well. I explored in my Jeshta Evil Eye video how Jeshta, which is the next Mercury-ruled nakshatra and is also sharp in quality, also leans into shows of bravado and confidence as a strategy for self-elevation. Both women have been cited in various articles as female Andrew Tate's, which is an interesting note in regards to his trine Jeshta Moon placement. Mercury is the planet that rules the certification of one's skills and value, bringing it to being concerned with being perceived as capable. While Jeshta mingles its bravado with more direct modes of confrontation and aggression, Ashlesha's especially focus on more inward drawing, more indirect, subliminal, lunar approaches to self-elevation like the seductive glamour of feminine beauty charged with confidence.
We're going to be talking about subliminal ways to seduce.
Ashlesha writers dominate the lists of best-selling dating advice books for women. Ashlesha Moon's Steve Harvey wrote the famous Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, which conveys advice for women on things like establishing boundaries and standards, building self-respect, and withholding gratification. The advice is all about timing, containment, and value, encouraging women to take on more of this serpent logic, to withhold and coil energy into and around herself instead, in order to fully harness her feminine power to subtly influence reality in her favor.
Your dad gives the best advice on everything, but when it comes to relationships, what does he tell you, or do you not want to hear it when it comes to your own life?
I always joke and say that Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man was like embedded in my brain from a young age. But I think just like the most important advice he would give me is just to, remember that you're the prize. Remember you're the prize and, make them work.
We're going to be talking about keeping your eyes on the prize. That means you.
The film adaptation of his book is fascinating astrologically. 4 women study the book, apply its principles, and their relationships begin to shift when they act from this place of value and self-respect rather than need or desperation. Notably, 3 out of 4 of these lead actresses have Ashlesha placements.
Men respect women who have standards. Just get some.
Oh, exactly.
Sherry Argov, who can have Ashlesha Moon, wrote the very popular Why Men Love Bitches, which echoes the same stance, laying out 100 attraction principles that emphasize self-possession and confidence.
The first item on his checklist, she is confident.
Confidence is one of the most appealing qualities a woman can have. When you're confident in yourself, no matter what your physical traits may be, it's magnetic.
Not overgiving, not collapsing your standards or your boundaries, and not chasing.
I feel like that goes back to in your book when you mentioned that men are hunters, and when they work for something, they appreciate it more.
When they have something that's just outside their reach, literally there are studies done where their endorphins are going through the roof.
If every woman understood that, let him see what he can get, but make him imagine what he can have.
Good night.
The hunter in us is triggered by that.
Next, there's He's Just Not That Into You by Greg Berhart, who can have Ashlesha Moon. It's a blunt handbook repeating these notions.
Because desperation is a total turnoff and need freaks people out. And if you can find some ways to curb those things by finding some value in yourself.
If attention or effort is not being freely given, don't chase it, withdraw your energy, and let your absence speak. Connect to the reality of your own value.
When you are at a point in your life where you are happy and content and you love yourself and you can lay down on your bed and know that you're okay by yourself, as soon as you're there, someone will come along and ruin that with their love. Right? Because you're desirable then. There's nothing more attractive than liking yourself.
So amongst all these many Ashleshas dominating the realm of dating and seduction advice for women, they each repeat what is essentially the exact same roles.
Because you don't want to become a trip girl.
A what?
Trip. He just hits the locks and you hop in. He don't even have to open the door.
It's all surrounding ideas of self-worth.
I don't go out on dates with guys who don't open the door for me.
Really?
Really. I do not go out with guys who ask me via text.
She tripping.
Boundaries and controlled timing that titillates and builds tension and desire and increases mystery. They each center the power on the woman.
Women have lowered the standards for dating, that dating has become unrecognizable. I have 2 daughters and they will go on dates.
I end up saying it was for all women, but I really wrote it for my daughters at first.
And turn dating into a sequence of thresholds that intensify desire and certify a suitor's intent and worthiness.
See, this is why you need to read the book. This is why you need to get the book, because it has a whole chapter on it. Getting the respect that you deserve. Because Steve says, there you go, Steve.
Beyond these practical handbooks, Ashlesha thinkers also study and extol seduction on a more spiritual and philosophical level, venerating it as a divine art, indispensable to the drama of existence, something the Ashlesha ascendant philosopher Jean Baudrillard did in his meditation on the subject Seduction. In it, he argued that Freud had it backwards. Quoting him, Freud's psychoanalysis assigned seduction to the feminine, but only as secondary, derivative, dependent on the phallic model. Seduction is interpreted as that which diverts, that which strays from the law of the father. But in fact, it is the reverse. Seduction is primary, first. It is what calls masculine certainty into question and produces it by exception.
That when we talk about masculinity, we present it as an imperative, as a duty, as a performance, as a prove it. Meaning it's not a given. Meaning masculinity seems to be hard to acquire and easy to lose.
So in his view, masculinity does not precede femininity. He positions femininity as the sovereign force that challenges and produces masculine certainty through seduction. This philosophical viewpoint fascinatingly parallels ideas from Hermetic alchemy, mirroring the logic of Quicksilver and gold. Quicksilver, also called Mercury, was seen as the indispensable substance of transformation. Mercury is a toxic, volatile liquid metal identified with the moon, changeable, magnetic, transformative matter. It is the feminine prima materia, the first matter from which all metals were thought to be formed. Julius Evola lists its primary symbols in alchemical texts as water, woman, poison, venom, and serpent, all of which beautifully echo Ashlesha's traditional associations. Quicksilver is the universal solvent, binding to every metal it touches, corroding what is base, yet clinging to, revealing, and exalting what is incorruptible, gold. The solar principle of fixity, the unchanging center that affirms itself within the heart of chaos. Mercury, the feminine tester, initiates and transforms, while gold, the masculine ideal, is revealed in its purity, or its false imitations destroyed, depending on its encounter with Mercury. So this is the same structure Baudrillard attributes philosophically to seduction and masculinity, the latter produced only through the former's challenge. Without seduction, he writes, masculine certainty has no meaning.
He's nothing compared to you or I. He's a man.
Cosmically, the feminine matrix proceeds, it exists in itself. Masculinity emerges only as its exception. So that magnetism impulse, the watery, venomous appetite of Quicksilver, luring matter into its pool, comes from a deeply alchemical urge to attempt to reduce and corrode and test what it encounters.
You're killing people. No, I'm killing boys. Boys are just placeholders. They come and they go.
Quicksilver is called dominated and dominating at once, a force fully dependent on how it is used and handled. Left unmastered, it consumes, coiling tighter, paralyzing and poisoning what lacks the strength to rise above its grasp, dissolving all that is weak and impure until only the firm center endures as true. So when engaged with mastery, this venom becomes the very substance that transmutes the lowest thing into the highest. For the king who knows how to bathe in it, dissolving his own impurities, it is said he conquers all, just as Nagas are gatekeepers of treasures, magical abilities, and esoteric knowledge. So according to Baudrillard, despite being physically smaller, the feminine governs the symbolic universe, shaping the flows of energy and power so profoundly that he argued women have always ultimately rolled, through their ability to, as he put it in a way that calls to mind alchemical language, reverse and dissolve all modes of masculine power.
You know, we spend all this time complaining about how guys don't want to be in relationships, they just want to hook up, but really all along we've had the power, right? We control the cookie. She who controls the cookie controls the game. Okay, I got it.
Ashleisha natives know how to maximize this Quicksilver magnetism in themselves and those around them.
I'm basically just trying to make you as gorgeous as possible without doing too much.
Well, I'm not going to say no to that.
You know, Peggy, you're cute. But if you don't mind a personal suggestion, you could use a little more makeup.
Now your eyes don't look upside down no more.
And I think you could get yourself a better hairdo.
Ashleisha thinkers like Green, Baudrillard, and Esther Perel all describe in similar ways that seduction is reliant above all on mystique, on the tension between what is revealed and what is concealed.
Seduction is about mystery.
Mystery is the lifeblood of seduction.
Checking in, approaching, waiting, seeing if the other person comes toward you, not moving, letting them get a little bit unsettled, then moving back just so that they don't take it as for granted.
You have to disappear sometimes so people don't take you for granted. So you have to create mystery.
Baudrillard writes, seduction's sole strategy is to be there/not there, and thereby produce a sort of flickering, a hypnotic mechanism. This flicker is the movement of physical glamour too, a surface that both veils and unveils, at once intensifying and withholding. Seduction is Maya's art. Through glamour, her conduits wrap themselves in intentional, amplified illusion, creating more secrecy and distortion around the self. Musing on seduction's dependency on mystery, Baudrillard explains, it's not natural beauty that seduces, but artificial ritual beauty. For ritual beauty is esoteric, initiatory, while natural beauty merely displays itself. It's nothing but expressive without mystery. Seduction lives in the secrecy woven by the subtle, playful, weightless signs of artifice. When she revels in her glamour, her beauty ceases to be flesh alone and becomes a spell charged with her erotic force and consecrated by her will to attract.
Why do men tell you, for example, I don't want you to wear makeup, I like you when you're au naturel? And yet they're so enamored with you when you're dolled up and you're wearing makeup. There's so many contradictions that I noticed, and I'm just one of these people that smells BS from a mile away. So I was like, wait a second, somebody's got to write a book to clear up this mess.
Most importantly, for the feminine-oriented libido, this allure stirs her own desire. Cultivating seductive glamour is arguably her greatest aphrodisiac.
In a straight narrative, you will often hear a man say, nothing turns me on more than for her to be turned on. She doesn't say nothing turns me on more than to see him turned on. If she's not into it, he can stand there with the biggest hard on, makes no dent. Shop is closed. What turns her on is to be the turn on. And that's the big secret of female sexuality, is that it is massively narcissistic. If she can think about herself, then she can be into it. And in order to think about herself, she then needs to like herself. Before you ask a woman if she will make love to a man or to another woman, ask a woman if she would make love to herself.
I literally want to go f myself. Like right now.
If she doesn't want to make love to herself, she won't let anybody else do it either.
Did you keep the cookie in the cookie jar? But of course. Nice. Thank you for your advice on undies. Which ones did you wear? The granny ones. The grandma dog. I told you the ugly panty trick would work. You wasn't trying to listen now. I don't work.
The famous film critic Roger Ebert had Ashleisha moon and demonstrated clear understanding of this. He called Belle du Jour possibly the best erotic film of modern times because, I quote, it understands eroticism from the inside out. The director understood one thing most directors never discover. For a woman like Séverine, walking into a room to have sex, the erotic charge comes not from who is waiting in a room, but from the fact that she is walking into it. Sex is about herself. The subject of Séverine's passion is always Séverine. In alchemical texts, Mercury is also often symbolized as the serpent devouring itself, which Evola alludes to as an endless looping of self-absorption, nature fascinated by nature, a viscous flood, a downward dissolving absorbing current that gains force through that looping, a self-consumption that paradoxically grows stronger the more it turns back into itself. So, as her flood force increases, as she weaves her glamour, others attune to the libidinal current and feel more and more sucked in. This also ties to how in ancient Taoist and Chinese medicine, women coming together were said to be like water with water.
Oh, you look beautiful. No, you look way more beautiful. No, that's not true. I
increasing the current of beauty and magnetism of each. Through these various actions and mindsets, like developing confidence and self-respect, fantasizing erotically, and mastering physical and psychological seduction techniques, Ashlesha's cosmic position becomes more clear.
Put it on. Why don't you have it on?
Well, because I have this stupid freaking braces.
Oh my god, please give this to me. I feel like it's gonna look good.
It involves all the preparatory steps she takes to awaken her sexual energy, build tension and titillation, and know her own immense worth, to have more alignment, protection, excitement, and self-knowledge before the Gandanta knot is passed into the Rat Yoni nakshatras, Magga and Purva Falguni, whose themes are more tied to completed sexual activity and reproduction. The yoni type, the animal that symbolizes Ashlesha's sexual nature, is the cat, which is said to be the least engaged in actual sexual activity. It's the enemy of the rat yoni for this reason. However, as I've shown, Ashlesha is actually very focused on sexual desire and dynamics.
She also watched a lot of porn, not because it turned her on or anything. It didn't, but if you analyzed it really closely, there were a ton of really good secrets.
But it comes from a more intellectualized and reflective place, wishing to understand the desires they feel and the desires of those around them, learning how to manipulate and control sexual energy rather than gratify it.
Sonia, I want him to last 90 days, not 90 seconds.
Ashlesha focuses on the charge built in restraint and in prolonging tension rather than in release. It's interesting that black cat energy in women is a trending term for, I quote the AI overview, a self-possessed, independent, mysterious personality akin to a cat that doesn't chase but rather allows others to pursue her. Her traits include confidence, a strong sense of self-worth, and the ability to set boundaries and attract others through elusiveness rather than eagerness.
That was me seducing you, when it needs to be the other way around.
So as Ashlesha's intuitively emphasize, what makes her so seductive is not bare truth, but the suspension of certainty that her shimmering illusion and mystique in appearance and behavior creates, where the cosmic masculine principle strains to define and establish truth. She opposes this by coating herself in mystique and artifice, leaving his questions unanswered and mysteries unresolved, so he keeps grasping and searching for her even when she stands right in front of him. In that suspension, he projects more intensely. Coated in her own woven and willed mystery, she's now not just beautiful, but also dangerous, untouchable, divine, whatever his uncertainty summons. Through glamour, her natural beauty is multiplied into infinite meanings.
So right now I'm looking at 1,000 versions of myself, and not only do I look good, I fucking feel good.
No longer bound to what is real or what is constructed. So by blissfully wielding illusion, she turns beauty into glamour, and glamour into a ritual alchemical force. Now to close this section, both Ashlesha's Green and Baudrillard felt drawn to cite the same passage from Baudelaire's In Praise of Cosmetics in their seduction treatises. Take makeup. Powder, so foolishly cursed by naive philosophers, has the object and result of banishing from the complexion the blemishes which nature has outrageously sown there, and of creating an abstract unity in the texture and color of the skin, and that this unity, like the unity produced by the sculptor's chisel, brings the human being directly nearer to the statue. In other words, a being that is divine and superior. The black frame around the eye makes the glance stranger and more penetrating. It makes the eye more distinctly resemble a window open to the infinite. The red on the cheek inflames the complexion and lends a woman's face the mysterious passion of a priestess. Woman is fully within her rights and is indeed performing a kind of duty when she strives to appear magical and supernatural. It is necessary that she should astonish and bewitch. An idol, she must adorn herself in gold to be adored. It matters little if her ruses are known to all. What does it matter if her artifice is seen if its effect remains irresistible? Here lies the justification for the practices women in every age have used to reinforce and divinize their fragile beauty. She must borrow from every art the means of raising herself above nature, the better to subjugate hearts and stir souls. Now before I get to factors 3 and 4, that leaves the number 2 ranking factor, which was fascinating, but I'm going to save exclusively for my patrons. Join my Patreon to support my research and to access a few things. All the graphs from this beautician survey, my analysis of this number 2 ranking factor, a different honorable mention nakshatra for primary placements, and an analysis including a video compilation of the nakshatra that arose the least in this survey and why, which adds a really interesting dimension. Then, for my waxing moon level patrons and above, I'll also be providing an illustrated ebook version of this research, or you can purchase it on my site separately, and that will be available in a week or so. There is a ton of backlog content on my Patreon in general. For example, this year I've posted over an hour of video content so far, and there are also active group chats where you can have endless discussions with like-minded people in this very niche subject area. One final note before I move on: if you enjoyed this video so far, you're likely the type who would also enjoy my Female Spiritual Path course, where you can go deeper on these topics, spending a full year exploring, embodying, and understanding the sacred feminine function in both its creative and destructive, more demonized manifestations, diving deeply into things like beauty, magnetism, spiritual protection, connecting to inner guidance, creativity, and more. You can find more info and dozens of student testimonials for that on my site. Now to shift focus to the third factor that arose, which actually tied with Sun in Ashlesha. It was Venus in Rohini Nakshatra, where Venus is situated happily at the core of its own sign of Taurus. Venus in Taurus in general took a top spot for Rashi placements, and this ranking spot had a ton of resonance with the most common house placement in the survey, the 5th beautician indicator I'll be revealing today. Venus placed in the 2nd house, the natural house of Taurus. It's interesting to note that the 2nd house roles the eyes, mouth, nose, senses, and general face amongst the body parts, and ties to the face as a reflection of our genetic ancestry and karmas, as it also roles one's family. The 2nd house and Taurus are associated with beauty, perfumes, cosmetics, ornaments, jewelry, and treasures.
These were the gemstones that I attached to Priyanka for the Met Gala this year. Swarovski crystals. Wow. We don't mess around.
The luxuries and valuables which bring pleasure to the senses. Jyotish texts often mention looking to the 2nd house to assess the, I quote, quality or luster of the face and hair.
Today our player is Namvo, a makeup artist who's worked with Kylie Jenner, Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, and is famous on Instagram for her hashtag Dewy Dumpling Glow.
We could just stand here and talk about cheek texture forever.
Parashara cites the 2nd house as the sole place to look to know the, I quote, beauty of the eyes. And of course, the beautician profession heavily involves such contemplations.
Do you remember the era of Instagram when everyone and their mom was hashtagging biggest nay?
Those with one of these placements, and especially Rohini, often describe a lifelong fascination with faces. For example, drawing eyes, studying expressions, with their creative energy being pulled passionately towards the study of the face.
I would just stop at the supermarket and stop at the makeup aisle and just like look at it, because I think they had a lot of faces and I was drawn more to faces than the makeup.
You started with these lines, these beautiful lines.
Yeah.
You were drawing eyes a lot.
Rohini is similar to Ashlesha in terms of some key associations, both holding snake and moon symbolism. While the snake is Ashlesha's symbol, Rohini's yoni animal, that which symbolizes it sexually, is the snake. Like Ashlesha, Rohini is also a combination of the feminine moon with one of the 2 Rajasic active planets, this time Venus. Both Rohini and Ashlesha have planetary connections, therefore, to working actively with lunar energies, the arts of attraction. I've also explored before how through the cosmic play, Rohini is archetypal, shameless feminine energy in its state as merged with the masculine before the split into duality, and Ashlesha is the first awakening of feminine energy seeking reunion after the fall, passive oriented yearning to be desired and rejoin. So as Rohini is the other nakshatra heavily tied to primordial feminine energy, but simply in a different cosmic state, it's fascinating that Rohini was another nakshatra to take a key top factor. In many of my career surveys, the Rajasic planets in one's chart, Venus and Mercury, proved to be important ranking factors for profession.
Hi, I'm Patty Dubroff.
I'm Bryce Scarlett.
We are going to show you how to recreate the look that we gave to Margot Robbie.
They are less about our personalities and more about, in different ways, the nature of the actual activities we end up busying ourselves with in life.
You see how it just leaves that really beautiful wet look?
Through either the second house, the earthly Taurus, or Rohini, Venus here pulls one's activity towards lush, tactile, sensorial indulgence, immersing themselves in and playing with the colors, textures, and scents that stir pleasure.
My relationship with colors right now is very intense. I'm slightly obsessed with them and textures as well.
Growing up, I did a lot of like painting and drawing and stuff. A love of color is something I've had for a really long time. I really missed like the painting and drawing aspect of like colors and paint, and even like glitter and textures and working with my hands.
Color makes all the difference in a look. You will suddenly see the shift that happens the minute we add color to the face.
While Ashlesha's love for glamour tends to come from a more strategic place, Venus in Rohini, the second house, or Taurus, is drawn to the cosmetic arts simply out of love for indulging in sheer beauty and sensorial stimulation.
I'll say a prayer, I'll call in the glow gods, and we'll make it cute. Please be with us today, we need you.
This nakshatra has the traditional wish to create union, associated deeply with Brahma's creative, uninhibited stirring of passion, the desire to join people together in love and passion.
What makes a great makeup artist is people who feed themselves creatively, you know, and look at art everywhere and look at inspiration everywhere. One who sees beauty everywhere, sees beauty in many ways.
So Venus under these house, Rashi, or nakshatra energies functions well. It finds inspiration in the world around it, tapping into the currents of beauty and potential that others may miss. It harnesses its creativity without blockage, inhibition, or interference.
Really, to trust your instinct, to be really as instinctive as you can. You can get distracted and pleasing people, but you know, you need to get back to your core.
Celebrates beautiful things without shame, and this inspires its natives to align with careers and activities that flow with the guidance of the senses. I hope you enjoyed this dive into the top beauty curation placements. If you did, please remember to hit like and comment below the next profession you'd like me to explore in this format. Thank you to the over 100 individuals who contributed their birth chart information. For those people such as skin experts, nail artists, etc., who submitted their data for this project but weren't included in this particular analysis, I'll be covering more analysis of key placements for your specific niche in the future as I gather more data. A special thanks to my waxing moon level patrons listed on the screen now, and a huge shout out to my full moon level patrons: Ashley De La Cruz, Maddie DRX, Crystal Lynette, Nikki, Jasmine, Eric Linden, Ray, E, William Rivera, Aaron Shade, Anna R, Agnieszka Monica, Unity, Nexus, Michael Irwin, Haya, Joanne Schultz, Emily Moon, Luna, Carl Wilton, Alex Durin, JJJJ, Maya, Jake Settlemeyer, KM Wyland, Saturn's Daughter Saphira, T. Cheatham, Arik Phoenix, Captain Lockjaw, Stephanie, Raya, Pinky Gooman, Hannah, Mujib Faraz, Bella, Sonam, Shailesh Shah, Geraldine Orozco, Ashley Foster, Cheyenne Diaz, Push, Olga Anisimova, Ginny, Latoya McLean, Timmy, Yukia Love Winston, TR, Allison Lohner, Trevor Hooper, Baratha, Humes, Siffer, Sama, Elias Williams, Countess, Athena Nelson, Amira McNeil, and Jillian Brophy. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.